polar bears normally need sea ice to hunt seals, but an isolated group of polar bears living on the rugged, mountainous coast of southeast Greenland have figured out how to eke out a living, even though the sea ice there melts away early in the year. These bears have found a way to supplement their limited sea ice supply by hunting on freshwater ice that comes from glaciers on land. The glacial ice falls off in chunks into fjords, where the pieces glom together into a jumbled, floating platform that the polar bears use to stalk seals, according to a report in the journal Science. Climate change is making sea ice more and more scarce. Loss of sea ice is the primary threat to polar bears, says Kristin Laidre of the University of Washington, the lead author of the new study. But, she says, this new work suggests some bears might be able to cope with a diminished amount of sea ice, at least for a while, in places where they can take advantage of floating glacier ice, like Greenland and Svalbard, an archipelago in the Arctic Ocean. Glacial ice basically might help small. While indigenous people have long known that bears lived in southeast Greenland, it's a remote, challenging environment that's not frequented by humans. It's a coastline with huge mountain peaks, lots of winds, extreme conditions, lots of fog, says Laidre, who has spent years working with colleagues to survey polar bears living on Greenland's 1,800-mile-long east coast. To see what they could find in the southeast, the team had to take helicopters from the nearest settlement and fly for 2 hours in a straight line to the coast. We arrived in these fjords, very isolated fjords, and to reach essentially no sea ice or very poor sea ice offshore, says Laidre, explaining that the researchers expected to find few bears. But there were a lot of bears in these fjords, she says. It was clearly just a unique habitat. The sea ice persisted in these fjords for only around 100 days a year, she notes, meaning that bears don't have much time to use it as a hunting ground. It disappears in May, and that's really early, says Laidre. It's not enough time for a polar bear to get fat enough and survive. But the geography of this area makes it so that glaciers pour freshwater ice down over the mountains and into the fjords, she says. Icebergs break off from the glacier and congeal into an irregular surface that the polar bears can use as a platform for seal hunting. They supplement their hunting time by using this freshwater ice, says Laidre. When it was safe to land their helicopter, the researchers would briefly capture bears to take genetic samples or put on location trackers.